Michael.
Hereby call this meeting of the Finance Committee meeting to order at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, November 6th. First, let's start with our roll call. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
And Alderman Huntley, present. Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to see a motion. Well, do I have a motion to amend the agenda to include supplemental appropriation 14-25 and supplemental appropriation 15-25? Do I see a motion for that?
Move approval of the agenda with the two amended items, SA 14 and SA 15.
Excellent.
Second.
Do I hear a second from you, Alderwoman O'Neill? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda with the addition of SA 1425 and SA 1525, say aye.
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 The agenda is approved with the additional supplemental appropriations. Moving into our approval of minutes, do I see a motion to approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes from October 16th as written?
Move approval of the minutes from October 16th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Moving right along to our fund transfers. First, we have FT 3-25 for the Department of Public Works. Do I see any, would anyone like to have any discussion about this? There you go, come on forward.
Engineer.
Excellent. Hello.
Hello, my name is Donovan Harold. I'm with the Public Works Department, Facilities Project Manager.
Nice to meet you for the first time.
Nice
Glad
to meet
have
you as
here.
well, sir. I come to request a budget transfer from Project 40023, City Facility Improvements, to 40047, Truxton Park Improvements. I am managing the project for Truxton Skate Park. Currently in the 40047 account is $313,000. We have a contract to get the skate park renovated for $350,000. So the account is doesn't have enough funds for me to get that work going. So I'm requesting the transfer of $44,100.
Yeah. Alderwoman
Madam Chair,
Finlayson.
our document does not have any numbers in it.
Yeah, I was noticing
Mr.
that as well.
Donovan, would you happen to have a hard copy or she's getting it for us?
You don't have an attached page the second page that shows the details?
No,
the
it's one of
transfer?
one. There's only one page attached. And there is nothing in it.
Yeah, I would like to, but just
These are the
so we're clear, you're saying it is $44,100 is
Correct.
the number.
That you're transferring from where to where?
From City Facility Improvements Projects, which is 40023, to Truxton Park Improvements, 40047.
And do you anticipate that that's going to lead us to some city facility improvement project not being able to get completed?
No. I think we have more than enough money to continue doing the projects that we're doing for city facility improvements.
Alderwoman O'Neill, you got anything you want to say about this? Just want to make sure we give you time since you're up on the screen there.
Thank you. My only question was for the detail. We didn't have the attachment for page 2.
Caitlin, go ahead, Alderwoman Finlayson. Yeah.
Is it up now? So if we refresh, we'll see it. Mr.
I've
Donovan?
asked Ms. Buckland to make copies for you, so you can see it.
Excellent,
Sorry.
thank you.
Mr. Donovan, we're about to take on the Shaw Street project. So is there sufficient funds so that taking this amount away, and it's not that great an amount, will not impact that project or anything else?
No, this will not impact Shaw Street or any other city facility improvements.
Okay.
Well, I'll
Thank you.
just, oh, Director Dickinson, yes.
Yes, Shaw Street has its own project, enough to, for right now, enough to do the purchase and to make a big, take care of much of the improvements that are going to be needed. We don't yet know the full cost of fitting it out, so there may be more going towards that project, but there is a separate project for Shaw Street.
May I follow up?
Yeah, go ahead.
So does that mean the cost of the building will include the necessary renovations and outfitting of that building?
No, the project itself has enough funding to pay for the building itself and a few
Okay.
$100,000 towards improvements. What we don't know is how far that's going to get us
Thank you very much.
through the project, because I don't know that we have a full assessment of everything that's needed at Shaw Street yet.
Okay, that was my question, whether there's, I'm sure the young people will appreciate the skate park.
Older people can skate park.
Well,
skate
but
park
I
too,
know,
on
I'm being sexist, age discrimination.
We can get
But
you on a board, whatever you want.
yeah, well, that ship has passed.
I think it's bad for me as well, to be honest with you.
But I was amazed yesterday, working at the polls all day, the number of young people who came to vote on boards and the other scooters, and I mean, so they are using those
Yeah.
modes of,
Yeah, if anyone is interested in the project, we're having a community meeting on November the 14th at 6 p.m. at Pit Moyer.
Wonderful.
okay, great. Well, I got on the three-wheel electric bike, and that was fun. I will not get on a skateboard, so I'm just making that clear to you.
You and me both.
So if you're ready, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to FT 325.
Actually, before we do that, now that I'm looking at the paper we have in front of us, this is saying it transfers 42,000 of construction, 2,100 of overhead, and 44,100 of bond appropriations. Is that not a total of 88,200?
Can I clarify?
Yes, please.
When we add to the budget of a capital project, we add to the expenditure side, and we're adding to the revenue source as well. So what we're doing here is transferring the expenses and the revenue source of bonds.
Got it.
So you'll have each side here.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Then yes, please go ahead. So move.
I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to FT 325.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Did you get copies? I think I have.
Caleb, we'll cover these at the end of supplemental appropriations, right? Okay. All right, moving along.
I see.
We have, next on the agenda, supplemental appropriation 11-25, grant from the Maryland Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy.
Captain Amy Migueth with the Annapolis Police Department.
And Captain, do you want to cover both SA 1125 and SA 1225 kind of at the same time? I assume you're here to talk about both, or no?
Yes, and did you add to the agenda yet?
We did add the others to the agenda. Is that,
So at 14.
so you would cover also 1425?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'd love to hear from you about all three of those at once. That'd be great.
Sure. So for SA 1125, that is an additional $23,750 from the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy for our FY25 Police Recruitment and Retention Grant. We call that PRAR, just if I say PRAR. So increasing the budget, it was $25,000 from last year's grant. It was increased to a total of $48,750 for this year. So for this grant, we always, so far, we've always asked for more than we've gotten. So last year, we asked for more than $25,000, but that was the amount we got. Actually, we got a little less, but we ended up doing a GAN in the third quarter, and they had extra money they could give us, and we ended up spending it all. So I asked for, I think, 70 some thousand this year, and they ended up giving me 48,750. So we used this grant to fund reimbursement for officers' gym memberships so that they can do fitness things outside of the department and get some reimbursement for it. It's pretty minimal. It's a flat reimbursement of like about no more than $25 a month. So if they have something that's less than 25, it just reimburses what they paid. But if it's something more than that, it just reimburses the 25. It also covers officers who use a second language at work. So if an officer has translated with their language skills for a police report to assist with an investigation or anything like that, they can apply for a kind of bonus for using those skills with us. Then it also has a portion for like a kind of longevity bonus. So we kind of transitioned it a little. It had been a hiring bonus for new hires, entry-level officers, but because the city has funded that now, we didn't have to use this grant for that. So instead, I targeted bonuses to officers that had 10 or more years of service this year that are still ranked officer or officer first class. So there are officers that aren't making, as much money as someone who's made rank through their career, but their experience and their time with us is very important to the department. So we wanted to show them appreciation for that. So it's a minimal $1,000, retention bonus.
Yes, Alderman Finlayson.
Couple of questions, Captain. Is it working? And you know what I'm asking, and I fully support all efforts to help with retention. Are these the kinds of things that the rank and file is asking or showing that it makes a difference?
They definitely appreciate it. And we had a number of officers that left when the new accountability bills came in. There were a number of officers who just decided to get out of police work, or they moved, less that they moved to a different agency. These are things that they asked for. So it's showing our responsiveness to the things that they're prioritizing. We have lost a couple officers to other departments this year. So we had one officer go back to the department he came to us from. So there's a bit of that going on within police work where officers are kind of moving on to different police departments. So we try to think of things that would set us apart from other agencies. I haven't heard of other agencies, doing the gym reimbursement part. People do language bonuses. They have that built into their union contracts, things like that. So having us have the funds to be able to do that helps us. We have our deferred retirement program where officers can enter the program and leave in 4, and now there's a possible year extension to leave in 5 years. And so at the end of this year, we're losing 5 in that program that have to retire. So the fact that we have this grant isn't going to make a difference to them. But I definitely, we've seen less turnover than we have had in the past.
Are we doing exit surveys?
HR does, because for one, it's just better to have an outside group do it, and they do give us feedback about, what people are saying, and a lot of times it's opportunities to move different places within a department. Us being a smaller department, there are less opportunities to move into specialized units, so that can be a factor for someone to leave.
You mentioned that there are officers that have been in pretty much the same positions for an extended period of time. Are we doing any sorts of, I want to say career ladders, or encouraging them to move to more responsible ranks or positions?
Right. So just because they're an officer or officer first class doesn't mean they're necessarily in the same work position. They could be in canine, they could be a detective. It's just that they either haven't been promoted to corporal or they don't want to be promoted to corporal. So part of our performance evaluation is to have that discussion with the officer and then talk about a plan to get to that next rank if that is what they want. So there are some people that are just, happy to be doing just the work and not have the additional headaches that sometimes rank brings.
Well, I'm always talking to the officers, encouraging them to
Yes.
look ahead, and many of them say, nope, I'm good, Alderwoman, so I understand. My last point, let me suggest that when the budget comes around, that this be a request that you make, because I would hate for us to count on having to get a grant to fund these opportunities. So, it's great that the state is giving us funding for this, but if that goes away, then we lose the opportunities that were generated by it. So,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
And
Sorry.
so I believe we just went over our SA 1225, correct?
No, SA 1245.
1225. So can we move along to,
I did not go over 1225.
I'm sorry, you were on 1125.
Yeah,
I jumped ahead.
1125.
My apologies.
That's okay.
So can we move ahead to 1225?
Yes. So SA 1225 is again an increase. This is from the same Maryland Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy. This is their community outreach and police athletic league grant. Again, with the expansion of our police athletic league programs, we expanded the amount that we asked for from last year. So last year we had $8,700 in this grant. This year we were awarded $28,462. And that is paying for supplies for the police athletic league activities, as well as personnel costs for some of the coaches and trainers that we have assisting with our boxing program, volleyball, and chess.
Excellent. Well, thank you for just describing this. I have no questions about it. Alderwoman Finlayson looks indisposed. Oh, did you have any questions about this? Alderwoman Finlayson, it's a supplemental appropriation due to a grant to work with the police athletic league and supports some of those programs like boxing and chess that we were just talking about.
So again, it was an increase. We, because of the expansion of the police athletic league activities, we asked for more funding to help with that this year. The police foundation has helped us a lot with funding, and so we wanted to supplement that with the grant.
Of course, I'm fine with it, and I do apologize.
And probably you would say the same about adding it to our budget. But
So-
I think I'm going to have quite a few things this year, but we'll see how many happen.
I like it.
Yeah, ditto.
So then do you want to give us an explanation of SA 1425? I'm sorry, Alderwoman O'Neill, you didn't have any questions on this one?
I was just going to ask if there was data on the number of participants in the boxing, volleyball, and chess, and where those participants are coming from.
I don't have that in front of me. I know that boxing is held in the Eastport Rec, so that is we're trying to draw from all over the communities in Annapolis. And then the volleyball is held at Annapolis Middle School, and the chess club is at the American Legion on Forest Drive. So, but
Thank you.
certainly have Corporal Jamal Davis, who runs those programs, present at some point.
Yeah, if we could get that data, that would be great, even if it's through email.
Sure.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Sure, yeah, we could, well, I was going to have the captain go over
Oh, okay.
1425 first, and then we could just go through all
Okay.
three motions
I'm sorry, I
together.
thought that's the one we were dealing with. Which
Nope,
one?
we just did 1225. So
Okay.
then, so would you tell us a little bit about supplemental appropriation 14-25?
Yes, so SA 1425 is from Anne Arundel County. The county applied for the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Grant, and they got a quite a large amount of grant funds from that. In their grant, they had talked to our chief about being a part of the grant. But we didn't know how much we were going to be getting, so that it wasn't on our budget. So this money is for us to buy some movable cameras for when we have a hate crime incident, being able to place a camera in that area to monitor for future other crimes that might happen. And then it's also for overtime, again, when a hate crime's reported, for officers to work overtime to do community outreach, to canvass the area, basically just do, part of the investigation for the hate crime. So it's being managed through the Anne Arundel County Department of Health, but I believe that Anne Arundel County Police Department actually applied for the grant, and there's a manager who's been hired to manage the whole grant because of the size of it. So this is our portion of it, the $25,800.
Any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Alderman O'Neill, no questions? Beautiful. All right, then do I have a motion? We'll go back to SA 1125. Thank you for your presentations, Captain. Do I see a motion to approve SA 1125?
Move approval of SA 1125.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none. Oh yeah, she does appear to be frozen.
But she did vote.
I saw her mouth move.
Either way, I believe we passed it. So we'll move along to, do I see a motion to approve SA 1225?
Move approval of SA 1225. Move a favorable recommendation for SA 1225, sorry.
Yeah,
Second.
excellent. All those in favor of approval of SA 1225 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And then finally, do I see a motion for approval of SA 14-25?
I'll move approval of SA 14, oh, I'm confused.
1425.
1425.
Thank you.
We've taken these kind of, okay, 1425.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Beautiful. Thank you very much for being here today. All right, we're going to have next up SA 1325, Office of the Mayor, sponsorship from Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area, Inc. And this is $500. Tola, thank you for being here for your $500 today. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about this $500 grant?
The mic's not
Could
good.
you turn your mic on, please?
How you doing? Oh, sorry. So it's $500 was a sponsorship from Chesapeake Crossroads towards our State of Black Annapolis event, which is every February. We usually do it at the library. The money was given for last year, but there was, I don't know, the check went missing. But basically, she brought in the check this fiscal year, so we're going to apply it to February 2025's event.
Beautiful.
Okay.
So this is for last year's program?
Well, she brought the check in last fiscal year. I think it was March or something, and I don't know what happened, but the check went missing once it was brought to the city. I didn't handle it. I just want to say that. And then, because her check was never cashed, she reached out to me, and I told her that if she could bring in the check, but it was already past July 2024. So she brought in the new check, and then we went through the process, finance and everything. So
I guess my question is for Ms. Dickinson, was that initial check acknowledged at all? And is this just a replacement for it, or is this treated like a new contribution?
This is, if you're talking about 1325, I'm sorry, I was talking about
Yeah.
something that we have on the agenda later. It's like a contribution, and no, we wouldn't have originally put it in the budget not knowing that we were getting it. So anytime we get one of these small contributions, we'll come to you to add it to the revenue side of the budget and the expense side of the budget.
Well, he was saying that the check was lost.
Doing this for, like? Oh, I don't know. We didn't get it. It never got here.
well, it was deposited. Ms. Benson told me she deposited in finance. Where it went after that, I don't know, because she never cashed it. Well, it was never cashed.
You
from her
never
bank.
cashed.
So that's why she reached back out to me. But it was already past. By the time we got investigating and looking for it, which I didn't handle, I'm saying that it was already past July 1st. So we were in a new fiscal year.
So she wrote a second check?
Yes.
Have you been, did you work with anybody on my staff
I
about
think
this?
Suzanne. I think. But this. Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay, all right.
So it's not being counted as twice?
No,
or it's
no,
a
we just never
replacement?
got deposited, or I don't know what would have happened to the check. If it came here physically, or if she mailed it, it could have got lost in the mail. If it came here and didn't get deposited, I don't know how to trace that. But as long as it wasn't cashed against her account, then we're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you for explaining the situation. I'm sorry we had to have you in here over $500. I think you maybe could have spent this time more efficiently, but do I see a motion to approve SA 1325?
Move approval, favorable recommendation for SA 1325.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And our last supplemental appropriation for today is SA 1525 for $50,000 from the Reserve for One-Time Uses to the City Manager Contractual Services account for a resilience consultant. Welcome. Would you like to give us a bit of a description of what this is for today? Yeah, please identify yourself first also.
Dylan Lakonich, Environmental Programs Coordinator. Thank you all for having me. The supplemental appropriation 1525 is to make a one-time appropriation for $50,000, which will be used for a consultant to do an inventory on our greenhouse gases and make a climate action plan around those numbers in order for us to reach our carbon neutrality goals. This was appropriated in fiscal year 24 in the operating budget under contract services for the city manager's office. However, it was not encumbered and it was not successfully rolled over. And so we're requesting that this is moved from the reserve over to the current operating budget so that we can encumber these funds.
Got it.
For that same purpose.
Could you explain exactly what it's for? The description doesn't say. And you mentioned monitoring greenhouse gases.
Yes, so we would like to do an inventory of where the greenhouse gases are coming from in the city, whether that be residential electricity usage, whether that be transportation, other forms of greenhouse gas emissions. Based on that assessment, this consultant would help us assess exactly what the best greenhouse gas reduction strategies would be, whether that be deploying solar, whether that be supporting more electric vehicles, different strategies to help us reduce that number and understand where we're at.
And I believe you told me informally at one point that we had previously done a greenhouse gas inventory, but it was like 15 years ago or something, right?
16 years ago, back in 2008, based on 2006 numbers. Consistent with the Maryland Department of Environment, we would maintain the 2006 level in terms of our goals for climate action. However, we would be doing an assessment of where our greenhouse gas emissions are coming from in recent years, between 2020 and 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you give us, in writing, please?
Absolutely.
Because the description is vague. It doesn't say exactly what it's for at all.
Absolutely.
So could you make an amendment to it that would specifically say what the funding is for?
I can absolutely do that,
What the
yes.
consultant is for? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman O'Neill, anything from you?
Yes, thank you. Two quick questions. My first question is, this is hiring a consultant. Is it a consultant known to the city? Is it the same person or the same consultant that we used last time around and 16 years ago? And does this fully cover the consultant and the report that would be forthcoming?
Yes. So to answer your question about who the consultant was last time, we had collaborated with Strawn Environmental. However, it was done in collaboration with the Department of Environmental Policy, which was no longer a department now, but it was a department in 2008. We have sought out the quote, or sought out several quotes from different consulting groups, whether that be Caramita. We've consulted with ICLEI, LEI, among other groups that are prominent in this field. And we believe that the $50,000 will be sufficient for both the inventory and the climate action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll seek more proposals in an invitation, and we'll select the best one based on different metrics.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do I see a motion for approval of SA 1525?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a recommendation to give a favorable recommendation for SA 1525.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Beautiful. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And I'll look forward to that attachment. Thank you.
Yeah, I was also like, it was a consultant doing well. All right, moving forward, we are on to our general discussion portion. And in particular, we're getting an update on Stanton Center renovations. I personally am really excited for this. I asked for it to be added to the agenda. I know we have quite a bit of state money to work on this, and I'm looking forward to hearing how we're going to spend it. So whoever,
Ms. Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, you here for that? Thank you very much.
And Mr. Donovan.
Oh, beautiful. We got both of you. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, Rosalind Johnson, Director of Recreation and Parks for the City of Annapolis.
Donovan Harrell, Public Works Facilities Project Manager.
So like I said, my interest in particular is just kind of getting a better understanding of where this project stands. And, one of the things I have been prioritizing in this chair role is making sure that when we get state funding, we spend it expediently so that we can then go back and get more state funding. And same for federal funding. So I would love if you guys could just give us an update on where this project stands right now, and especially with an eye towards how much of our city allocated and state allocated funding we've spent so far and plans to spend in the future.
Sure. So if you look at the CIP budget pages, I just sent them in case you didn't have them readily available. If you look at those, we were originally awarded 1.2 million from the state, and that was awarded in 2023, I believe, 2022. And we just got the approval to spend the other $600,000 on in August of this year. So that was the state funding. And then,
I'm
yes.
sorry, Ms. Johnson, I'm just going to pause you for a second because I'm confused. What I see on here is that in FY 2021, we got $600,000. Then in FY 2023, we got another $600,000.
Okay, that's correct. Your papers are correct.
Okay.
We have two.
Yeah, but we have
One is
two.
page 53 and one is page 69.
Correct.
So which page are we looking at?
Let me go to the exact pages.
So one of the pages may be FY '24 budget instead of FY '25, so they're not the exact same thing.
So
it's
page 53.
Page 69.
Page 53 is the, shows the 1.253. And then page 67 is from this fiscal year, and that shows the 4.403 total. So that's combining both pages together.
Got it. Thank you for explaining that. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
And so with the 1.253, we just received the approval to spend the other 600,000 of that August of this year. And so we're currently in design phase for Stanton Community Center. And then if you look at your page 67, we won't have the final amount for the total design and construction until FY '26. So we are designing and planning with that in mind. What you don't see here is another supposed 850,000 coming from the feds. We put in earmarks with Cardin, Van Hollen, and Sarbanes for $3 million. All of them approved that to go forward. It went to the House Committee, and it was nixed in one of the committees, and then in the other, it was reduced to 850,000. So we're hopeful that we'll get the 850,000 that will be appropriated in December of this year. But of course, now everything is up in the air. So you don't see that amount listed here because it's not funds in hand.
So I guess my question, and maybe this is more towards our project manager, is if we do have, at this point, between the prior approved appropriations and the FY 2025 budget, $2.8 million here, why have we not started construction even if we know that we don't have all of the funds in hand until FY '26?
We haven't completed the design yet, so we have to complete the design before we start construction.
Sure.
Originally, this project was going to be windows, doors, and a roof.
Right.
And so we changed it from windows, doors, and a roof because that's essentially putting lipstick on a pig, and it's not the best idea for the community to overlook all of the other needs. So the scope of this project changed, and that's where the additional funding came in. So the architect is still designing. Once they complete the design, then we will go to the community as well as to council to share that design, to get input. We'll do tweaks then, and then we'll go out to bid for construction once we have the final design. But Donovan might have some other stuff to add.
Yeah, we had a meeting with the designers last Thursday. The designs that we collaborated on weren't, I guess, translated from us to them, so we're suffering a little setback. However, I was on a phone call this morning with the designers, and we're going to try to schedule a meeting with the Rec and Parks team to make sure that the design meets all the, I guess, the criteria that we submitted to them and get this project back on track. We also added some additional design requirements, so that may also push the design back. We wanted to add a rooftop playground to the Stanton Center as well. And so that's going to require possibly expanding the first floor where the gym area is, so to support the framing of the roof. So we're looking at the next meeting that we'll talk about deliverables and what the actual schedule is. And then I guess if we need to come back to you guys and let you know what the update is, we'll have a schedule for the design when we plan on finishing and when we submit the permitting documents and what the bidding schedule will be as well.
And so I appreciate, Director Johnson, you sharing the process there and the steps. Do we have a current timeline of when we expect each one of those steps to be completed?
Well, our timeline has been thrown off. The consultant was supposed to have their final construction documents to us September 30th of this year.
Right.
They fell behind. The main architect that was working on the project left the company, which put them in a quandary, not us, but them, because they still have to deliver. And so the momentum was kind of slowed down and lost. We met with them last week, and it appears as though they haven't done anything for the last year that they've had the project, based on what was presented to us. So hopefully we will be able to move forward with them. At this point, I'm not convinced that they are holding up their end of the bargain. So we might have to look for another architect to bring on board to handle it. We've been in touch with our procurement officer, and Ms. Leonard's just back from vacation or from leave. So we'll be meeting with her to look at our options.
And are there pieces, as we're, talking about some serious delays here in the broad design, are there pieces that we could begin to start construction on, things like electrical rewiring that we are, I think about like with our city dock project, we know we're going to have some delays, but we're looking at how we can maybe redo some of the utilities and get started on that. Do you think there are any aspects of the project like that we could begin work on?
Not for electrical because of the intensity.
I just use that as an example.
Okay.
But
we would like to start with the gymnasium, but we need really the whole total project completed before we can start phasing in. We did ask the architects ahead of time to design it in such a way that we could phase it in, depending on our funding, because we knew initially a year and a half ago that we did not have all of the funding. We've since received a large amount of the funding, and we're hopeful that it will be enough. But once we get the complete design, then we can look at where we can start phasing things in. We did add the rooftop playground, and we knew that would have to possibly be a phase 2, depending on where the estimates came in. But it is a design build. Is it design build?
No, it's a design and then bid.
Design and bid.
Did you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Finlayson, you had some questions?
Yeah, well, not a question, more of a comment. We've gone through major renovations on city buildings before. And what comes to my mind is the police department. And that project, and Mr. Donovan, I see the smile, so you know some of the details that surrounded that project when we tried to take things out of order and do it piecemeal. And I think we've learned that lesson. So I am thrilled that the two of you are together. Mr. Donovan, you've been extremely successful in working projects for us over the years. And Ms. Johnson, you've got the brains for the vision. So I'm just glad you're working on this together. And I would trust that you would move this forward at the pace that is needed so nothing falls through the cracks. Again, we don't want another police department issue. And we want this community center to be everything that it can be for the community, and it's going to be. So I just say keep moving forward as a team, and I've got all the confidence in the world that it's going to happen. So
Thank you. That's our intent.
Thank you. I have Donovan on speed dial and often call him and say, Donovan, they were supposed to have it to us by September 30th. Where were we? So, and he's still answering my phone calls, so it's been amazing.
Well, that's a good thing.
Alderwoman O'Neill, do you have any questions, anything you want to jump in with?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing the draft plans and talking more about it as we move forward. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you both being here today. I really just want to emphasize the importance to me, and I think to other committee members, of while we want to make sure it gets done right, we also want to make sure that we can go back and get additional state funding for other projects. And what I hear from our state delegation is that the longer these things take, the less likely they are to give us more money in the future. So would just encourage you guys to keep asking those tough questions around what can we get done? How can we not spend money, willy-nilly, but make sure that we are getting those funds encumbered and out the door in a way that makes sense as soon as possible. So thank you both for being here and providing an update to us.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we've also been in touch with Delegate Henson and our state delegation, so they know exactly where we are as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, budget preparation discussion.
Fun.
All right, moving on along. Our next item in general discussion is our budget preparation discussion, and I'm guessing that goes to our finance director?
No, this is a committee thing, so that you all can discuss the date.
Oh, this is just for us to discuss.
Yes, no,
Okay. Never mind, Director Dickinson.
There is a resolution out there with dates that spell out how we'd like to move forward with the 2026 budget season. And what I don't know is in front of you is it the resolution and the Finance Committee's comments on the resolution.
Whose resolution is it?
Well, we draft it every year and then provide it to the Finance Committee and Council for approval about what dates we're going to have, which meetings, and various deadlines along the process.
So is that the discussion we're supposed to have now? You have the resolution so we can agree to whatever the dates are, or when will
The
that
resolution
happen?
has been introduced to the council, right?
I don't believe it has been yet. The resolution, a draft of the resolution was sent to me by our budget officer, but as far as I know, it has not been introduced.
It shouldn't be introduced before it comes to the committee.
Before it comes here, and you all discuss and decide what dates you want to do for that and how that works. And then it
Okay.
will go to-
So Budget Manager Conley has sent the schedule to you. It is embedded within a resolution, and it is for the Finance Committee to discuss and look at those dates and decide if those are acceptable to you.
Well, I guess my question is, it's a resolution, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure.
Well,
whether-
I think it's in your email.
So, but it's not been introduced. It should not be introduced until the Finance Committee confirms those dates, right?
So my understanding that it was introduced is probably my confusion. I know that we had finalized it and put all the dates in the way we wanted it. In this case, it may be coming to you to confirm that's what you want before we send it on to council.
Yeah. So I think the purpose of our discussion today is to look at this draft resolution.
Correct.
Make sure that we, as the Finance Committee, are comfortable with it, make any edits now so that it then can be introduced. That's why we have it just as a general discussion item rather than an actual resolution item.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I think we should have a chance to review this and have some internal discussions amongst the committee about codifying those dates before it's introduced.
That does make sense to me, but I know that at least our first date, which I'll say also I have an objection to, is before our next Finance Committee meeting, or I guess it's right after our next Finance Committee meeting.
Which
So
means we know that's going to have to be changed.
Yeah, so we do need to adjust that. And, yeah, I would just say,
What is I don't have it open. What is the first date on that calendar?
sure, the first date is November 21st, 2024 for a city council work session on the FY 2026 budget. And then the next one after that is not until April 14th. So after that, we have a fair amount of time. But for our first work session,
I think that initial meeting in November is something that the Finance Committee asked for.
Well, I'm listening to our staff, and she doesn't have a copy of it, so I don't know. We should have a copy of it before it goes anywhere, I would think.
So you do have a copy of it. It was sent to you via email to review and discuss.
respectfully, Director Dickinson, it was sent to me, but the email that went to me about it did not include the other members of the committee. So it is definitely possible.
Alderwoman
that
O'Neill, do you
information
have
is
the
not
drafted?
I do not have a draft of the resolution, but I can tell you that we did ask in last year's budget process for a meeting earlier than what I believe that for FY 25's budget process, we did not have the council meeting until January or February. But in the FY 23, 2 years prior, we did have a meeting before we recessed in December. Not that it's really a recess, but we had a meeting where we all discussed our budget priorities. And I know that at least myself, and I believe the former chair, also requested of the budget staff to have that meeting earlier. And I think that that is why there is a November suggested work session.
So, Mr. Chair, we can simply postpone action so that we have an opportunity, and if that, Ms. Conley will send out the draft to everyone.
Yeah.
So that we can look at the dates and see how we can make changes and be prepared to have this discussion at the next meeting.
Okay. We can follow up. That first meeting, the only reason I was highlighting that is because we were having trouble scheduling the date, and the original date we had in there was Regina pushed back on it. So we needed to change it. What I don't know is where we were going to land as far as where, what the date was on the first meeting. My only concern is that you wanted to have that early meeting, so the faster we move this
Right.
calendar along, the better.
And I think, you know, we had the discussion previously about the budget process actually in the past starting in September. And so, you know, we've been trying to move it ahead. That's been a concern of the entire council. But I think we need an opportunity to review this, look at the dates, and then we come back with the dates as opposed to those dates being imposed upon us.
So my suggestion is that we break this first city council work session out of this budget process timeline, that we schedule that work session as we would any other work session. We do it relatively soon. And then we, at our next, before our next finance committee meeting, we are sent this timeline that we can then review at our next finance committee meeting and move as a resolution. But we'll have the work session, which will happen in late November or early December, get scheduled separately from that. Are other members of the committee amenable to that?
Well, I think that work session should be in, but I think Ms. Jackson and Ms. Eldridge should help us set that work session date.
Right, that's when I say schedule it as we do other ones, I mean.
Yeah, but I think it should
Not
be in
via
there, but it's
resolution.
just, because the other dates seem to be fine, but I don't want to pass judgment on those until we really can look at them closely.
So I guess, I think what I'm hearing is that you're okay with how I suggested it, right?
That we postpone action on this until we have an opportunity to closely look at the dates and reconsider the date for the work session.
That work best for all of you. The dates that work best for the three of you.
The dates that work best for the committee.
Yeah. Alderwoman O'Neill, how do you feel about this process?
I agree. I mean, I think that the work session is important, and that it should happen sooner rather than later. And then the date in the resolution are really important to the committee because we are the ones that are holding the budget hearings and they need to be worked in our calendars. So I agree with postponing action.
Excellent. So given that we can still amend I won't even get into that. But I think the most important thing is we need to get the city council work session scheduled, again, for sooner rather than later. And then by our next meeting of the finance committee meeting, we will have a budget process timeline that we can review and that we can pass. Everyone in agreement on that?
And we can introduce to the full council.
Right, yeah, introduce, yeah. Does that work
Yes.
for you, Director Dickinson?
That's fine, it's your schedule. And I think when we sent that email, that was us passing it to you and saying, here,
Yeah.
consider these dates and let us know, so.
Thank you, and we appreciate you guys putting that together. All right, do we have any further discussion on this topic? Do we all feel like we know what our action items are on?
Mr. Chair, I think
Yeah.
we should just plan to put this on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, we should. And the city council staff, office of law staff, Ms. Eldridge can work on getting our work session scheduled, you know, in the same way that we schedule other work sessions, but making sure that the 3 members of the finance committee meeting can attend. And I'll say November 21st does not work for me.
Okay.
So,
There's already one that day, and it's already anyway, so.
excellent.
Can't be this one.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving forward then. General discussion, finance department update.
Yes, so today I put my comments on paper and I gave a copy to your assistant there. Just for the record, the first thing I wanted to talk about today is that we have a new budget analyst.
Well, she's getting copies for us.
I'm going to talk about it, so I don't know if you really need a copy right now. It's just the types of things that we're going through. It's just discussion items.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Director Dickinson. Looking forward
Yeah.
to hearing your oral update.
yeah, we have a new budget analyst. And I was thinking he wasn't coming to this meeting, but he is here. Darren Johnson is our new senior budget analyst, and will be working
Welcome.
with Katie and her team for the upcoming budget season.
Well, we're
And
grateful
so
to have you.
You'll be seeing a lot of him, and Capri, and Katie. All right, and so we've also hired a new senior accountant. If you recall, we had hired somebody in the summer and they ended up not coming to work with us, and so we had to start the process again. And we have hired Grace Fatturati Owoye, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She starts on December 5th, and she comes to us from the state of Maryland, but she's got a significant work background in accounting. So we're really grateful she's coming on board. We have a cashier position that's still open. We've conducted some interviews, and we're working on offers at this time. And then I'm doing interviews myself for the assistant finance director. This is Julie's last week with us. So, I've had a couple interviews. I'm not sure about offers yet, so I'm still in the process of that. And besides that, the major thing that's going on in our office is we're trying to respond to the auditor's request for work for the annual comprehensive financial report for FY24. And we're getting them information on a regular basis and trying to wrap that part up. Very busy doing that.
Yeah, big happenings over in the finance department. I'm glad to hear you guys are getting more folks hired. I know that's been a struggle for a little while,
Yeah.
so happy to hear that those ranks are getting filled up.
Thank you.
Congratulations. One of the things that we had talked about at our last meeting, having a report out on, and slipped my mind when I was approving this agenda, but I'm realizing we had talked about hearing from HR on the process of getting a national search to replace Director Dickinson. Oh, Ms. Buckland, you got something to tell us about that?
Just a general update, yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
So the main avenues that we used are the kind of primary sources where folks in this arena tend to look for positions like GFOA and stuff like that. So we to date have gotten 17 applicants. So we do have a pretty robust applicant pool. And we are in the process of getting those and looking through those to make sure that we really do in fact have a robust applicant pool. And if that checks out, then we'll actually be starting interviews. So we've gotten a good response from the outreach that we've done.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. Alderwoman O'Neill, was it you who originally requested that national search for this, or was it you, Alderwoman Finlay?
We always do a national search, generally.
Well,
I had requested information on a national search and was told by the city manager's office that they were doing the one avenue first before we decided to allocate funding for a national search. And I'm happy to hear that there are 17 applicants. Hopefully we'll pan out for some interviews.
and I asked Ms. Buckland at our next meeting, if turns out none of those 17 are really what we need, then you can tell us that, and then we can talk about a national search. But fingers crossed we don't have to.
Mr. Chair, I would like to thank Ms. Dickinson for her report. I've asked for it at each meeting. Next time, 3 copies would be great, as opposed to 1. But I think this, and Ms. Kalin can, I guess, attach it to the minutes for the meeting. Thank you.
Do we have any other items for general discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to offer an apology. My phone rang. It always rings, but today my 100-year-old father called. And when he calls, I'm going to answer. I'm sorry. But fortunately, everything is okay. So, because he doesn't generally call unless it's important, so.
I believe President Biden has a
apologize.
rule that if any of his grandkids call him, he always picks up. So,
That's right.
there you go.
So when my dad calls, I'm sorry. But anyway, it's all good. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other general discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Reverse panda.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Meeting adjourned, 11:30 a.m.
Reverse panda.